And welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you a requested video from my subscriber on how to cut a stylish Queen Anne neckline blouse. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and my blouse length. So you can go ahead and measure your blouse length, or you can mark 5 inches after your waistline, or any measurement of your choice. Now I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2 and I'll add half. From that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch and I'm going to go ahead to connect to draw my shoulder slope. Next is to mark your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 inches and I'll rule a straight line at that point. I'll go ahead and measure what I have on the shoulder on that part, which is my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. Go ahead to connect and draw out a straight line. After I'm done connecting that, I'm going to fold my tape this way, mark what I have on this part, and I'll be coming in by ½ inch. At this point, I'll mark and then go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here. Now, I'll place my curved rule and I'm going to connect from that point all the way to the armhole and to the upper part of my shoulder. So after I'm done doing this, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead and use my marker, and I'm going to draw this out. So after I'm done outlining this, I'll be marking my dart. And to mark my dart is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. I'm going to mark this all the way to the blouse length at the lower part of my pattern. Now, after I'm done marking that, I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect and draw out a straight line. I'll move over to marking my dart and I'll mark 1 inch on both sides. So if you're a plus size or you're a bit bossy, you're going to be marking 1 inch on both parts of your pattern. So after that, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing a straight line, joining all the dots that I made on the pattern. So I'm going to place my ruler, my curved ruler, connect from the bust down to the under bust, and also repeat this at the other side. And I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline. After I'm done outlining, I'm going to go ahead and mark 1.5 inches on top. So you can use 2 inches or 1.5. It totally depends on how deep or high you want the neckline. If you don't want to reveal your bust or cleavage at all, you can just go ahead and use 2 inches or 2.5. So I'll mark 1/2 inch on both, 1 inch on both sides, and I'll go ahead to connect and also repeat this at the other side. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect and also connect at the other side. So next, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll measure this dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure my dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and I'll also add my sewing allowance. So you can use 2 inches or 1.5 or 2.5 for your sewing allowance. After that, I'll just go ahead and connect my pattern. And after that, I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern. So after that, work on the upper part. So on this upper part now, there are 2 ways of going about this. You can go ahead and extend these 2 inches that you have on the dart outside your bustier pattern this way, or you can just go ahead and blend it in. But first, I'm just going to be showing the first one. You can go ahead and cut this out, mark this out, so that by the time you draw out your yoke, it will be replacing that dart intake of 2 inches that you took out. Another way is just to go ahead to slant your armhole this way. So from what we have on the thumbnail, we are going to be using this. So after that, I'll just come down to my chest line this way. So that will serve as the sweetheart neckline. So up here, I'll mark my basic neckline of 3 inches and I'll come in by half, making it 3.5, and I'll connect it all the way to this part. So this will serve as my yoke, and here I'm going to come up by 0.3 inches and I'll mark. This is to take out any excess or make the sleeve to be very fitted at the shoulder part. So coming down to the lower part at this pattern, we'll be cutting out the excess we'll have and go ahead to continue our pattern. So next, after I'm done cutting this out, we are going to go ahead to mark our bust dart. So the bust dart is the difference from your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. So if you measure it, you notice that your shoulder to waist at the front is slightly longer than your shoulder to waist at the back. Mine is 1.5 inches and I marked that. So at the lower part, so at the other side, I'll be marking 1.5 inches and I will go ahead to connect it this way. So after I'm done connecting, I'll just go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern, and I'm going to mark out the bust dart area that we have on this pattern. So while cutting this, I'll go ahead to blend out the bust dart area, and this is what I have, and I'll cut out the rest of the pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question, also please leave it at the comment section. So after cutting out this pattern, also go ahead to take out these darts at the sleeve. So this is what we have, and we are moving over to the back pattern. For the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements just like we did for the front. The only difference is that I have a zipper. So after that, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2 just like we did for the front, and my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. After that, I'll just go ahead and place my ruler, and I'm going to draw a straight line. Mark ½ inch at both sides of my waistline, extend it all the way up, and also extend it to the upper part. So I'll just go ahead and connect all the way down. So after that, I'll just go ahead and I will use my marker to outline this. Next step is to insert my body measurement. I'm going to mark my bust divided by 4, and I will add my sewing allowance to it. Go ahead to measure just to show you that my shoulder to waistline at the back is 1.5 inches shorter than what we have at the front. So next, I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace, and I'll add my sewing allowance. At the lower part, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I will mark and add my sewing allowance. So next, I'll go ahead and connect from the waist to the upper part and also extend it to the lower part of my pattern. So after that, I'll go up by 1.5 inches also, just like we have on this part, and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way down. After I'm done connecting, I'll use my marker to outline this and then also outline the other side of my pattern. So coming over to this part of my dress, I'm going to go ahead to mark out my zipper bulge. So while I was marking this, I was supposed to mark it at my waist point, so I forgot and mark it at the lower part of my pattern. So while marking this, please go in by ½ inch at the waistline, then extend it to the top length and also at the upper part. So from the upper part, I went down by ½ inch for my chest line and I reconnected. So after I'm done doing that, I'll mark my neckline of 3 inches and add half to it, just like we did for the front, and I'll draw out a basic neckline. I'll come down by 1 inch and then reconnect this. So I didn't really see the back of the dress, so I'll just be using this basic pattern for it. So I went in by 0.3 inches or 0.5 here, and I'll shade it as the yoke, as the excess that we have on the yoke of this dress. So after that, I'll cut this out. So after cutting this, we're also going to cut this in form of a back pattern that has a lacing bar. So this is just to explain whether you want to use a zipper for your dress or you want to use a lacing bar also for your dress. Anyone that suits you, go ahead to use that. So to create the lacing bar area, I'll be going in by 2 inches. You can go in by 1.5 or 1. This totally depends on what you want at the back. So I'll go ahead and draw a straight line, and I'll be cutting this out. So also at the back, you're also going to cut out the darts while you're cutting it. So while I was cutting mine, I actually forgot to cut it. So for the sleeve of the dress, it's actually a bell sleeve. So all you're going to do is to cut your basic sleeve, and you're going to add an extension in front. Just like after cutting your sleeve at the wrist area, go ahead and add extra at the front part and connect and cut it out. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. Thanks.